do a quick mic check since I'm flying solo. Can anybody hear me? Give me some comments saying I can hear you or I can't hear you. And if not, then I get to be technical support for a day. All right. So we're just going to wait a couple minutes, let some folks join. I know folks are going to be joining here shortly. We have been spending the last several weeks talking about various things in project management. We talked about salaries last time. That was a lot of fun. We got some good questions on that in terms of what salaries to expect. So hopefully folks will get a chance to see that and they'll be able to comment. So my name is Tony Bryant. I am with Business PMO, the owner of Business PMO. And some folks said, why don't you start sharing your knowledge? So I did exactly that. So this is that bit of knowledge sharing, but I'd like to get some ideas from others on exactly what to talk about. Right now, we're just kind of going through some of the fundamentals, you know, how to interview, how to negotiate your salary. And this week, we want to talk a bit about what project management is. And then next week, we'll tackle the bigger one, which is what is a project manager? So those are million-dollar questions. And those of you who manage projects can probably appreciate that fact that when you go out to try to tell people what you do as a project manager, they look at you like deer in the headlights. They say, what does a project manager do? And that seems to vary by organization to organization. But I get a big kick out of this because when people ask me, well, what is project management or what do project managers do? These are oftentimes the very people who are doing the hiring for project managers and hiring different roles into project management and creating processes and policies. So I have to get a kick out of the fact that a lot of them say, well, what is it? Well, if you're hiring for it and writing policies for it and procedures for it, and you don't know what it is, that's okay. Just hire folks like me and we'll get in there and we'll tell you. So let's see, we're looking at 7:03 again. We're just going to wait a couple minutes, so I'll just do some quick disclosures here. So this is Tony Bryant. This week I am flying solo, so I don't have anybody to help me with the video quality or audio quality here in person. So if I do anything ridiculous, you can fully blame me. As you know, the project manager is to blame for everything. But there is quick logistics here. Whenever you like or subscribe, it helps build the audience somehow. I don't know the magic of social media, but however that social media works, great. For those of you who already have, I want to say thank you. Getting a big kick out of learning more about social media and sharing some knowledge here. And I think really in a couple of weeks, we're going to start bringing some other folks in, just so you can hear more than one perspective. You know, my perspective. You get 10 project managers in a room, you'll come out with 15 different opinions, and that's probably the case tonight too. So we will go ahead and get started. 7:04, and I hate for it to be 5 minutes late. So the topic of tonight is what is project management. So we did a couple videos on this. I hope folks got to see those videos, where we basically just kind of outline, you know, what do you think project management is? So I got a little cheat sheet for myself. And we're basically going to look at the computer, look at my cheat sheet. So if I'm not really looking at you too much on the camera, please don't feel offended in any way, shape, or form. So I wanted to start out with, well, what do other people say project management is before I kind of give the Tony Bryant or the Business PMO a view of project management. And when I went out there and did this little bit of homework, I got a kick out of it. So there's going to be some terms here just to kind of go through them. One is called PMI. It is an organization primarily in the United States, but definitely a global organization called the Project Management Institute. They do set a lot of standards in the project management industry. So I wanted to get what their definition of project management is. We also went out just to not be limited to the United States of America, but also taking a look at the UK and other places. And they have the Association for Project Management, APM.org, where they provided a definition, and also the government itself. What does the government think project management is? And I went and got the information from usability.com, which is an archive of information out there. Also went out to the ever reliable Wikipedia. Gotta love Wikipedia. As a teacher in college, I always love when people quote Wikipedia and I tell them that it doesn't count as part of their references, but Wikipedia has gotten a whole lot better over the years. And even if it is an open source definition, it definitely can be useful and can also point to other links. So I went out there. So I kind of want to just start with bottom up from that list. So starting with Wikipedia, they say, according to Wikipedia, this is the definition of project management. And project management is the process of leading the work of a team to achieve all project goals within the given constraints. What do you think about that? Again, project management is the process of leading the work of a team to achieve all project goals within the given constraints. Not bad, not bad. We're not here to bash anybody's view or any organization's view of project management, but really kind of want to dig into some of the commonalities here. If you go to usability.gov, you'll find an archive out there, and it's I would say a much more descriptive in nature. So they say at usability.gov, project management focuses on planning and organizing a project and its resources. This includes identifying and managing the life cycle to be used, applying it to the user-centered design process, formulating the project team, and efficiently guiding the team through all phases until project completion. And that definitely does sound government-ish. So if you were looking at that, we'll dig into that in just a minute, but quickly going to go through some other definitions. Now, if you really, really want a long definition, it's got to come from APM. And again, that's Association for Project Management, based out there in the UK. So if you go to apm.org, just to give them a shout out, since I'm grabbing their definition, here's what they say on their website. And take a big deep breath here. Project management is the application of processes, methods, skills, knowledge, and experience to achieve specific project objectives according to the project acceptance criteria within agreed parameters. And then it continues. Project management has final deliverables that are constrained to a finite time scale and budget. A key factor that distinguishes project management from just management, and we're going to talk about that as well, is that it has this final deliverable and a finite time span, unlike management, which is an ongoing process. Because of this, a project professional needs a wide range of skills, often technical skills, and certainly people management skills and good business awareness. Now, that is quite a mouthful. Can't really disagree with any particular one thing. I could pick on some of it and will, just for the fun of it. But that pretty much is the most descriptive definition I found. The Project Management Institute, PMI, we asked them, what is project management? They'll say project management is the use of specific knowledge, skills, tools, and techniques to deliver something of value to people. Again, not so bad. All right. So then I came up with the business PMO definition of what is project management, and really just tried to keep it simple. And so what I said is project management. So I said, what is it? The expert application of leadership and communication to accomplish a strategically planned change. And that's it. Simple does it. But if we start digging into some of this, you really want to understand what project management is. The first thing I'm going to tell you is that project management, by definition, means different things to different organizations. And I know people hate hearing that, but really it is. If you go to, if I put big blocks out there and you go out to state government, it's going to be run different from federal government. It's going to be done different from a nonprofit, different from a private corporate entity. Each one is going to have its own definition of what a project is. But we have to come up with some kind of general common ground. So the reason I think for the business PMO that I wanted to differentiate from some of these definitions here is they put an awful lot of stock in technical skills. And all too often in project management, we tend to build processes and think of things in terms of information technology. And this is where my bread and butter is for the longest time, 20, 25 years. So I understand why that is, why we tend to think of it in terms of input, process, output, which is something that, if I'm not mistaken, it was IBM who really coined that phrase, if they didn't create it, when they were talking about mainframes. And so this input, process, output, it's throughout all of project management. What I do like, just to kind of go through these, what I do like about PMI's version is they talk about something of value. I would like to think that there are no projects out there that are being done unless they do bring value to people, possibly the organization. Sure. If you consider the organization to be made up of people, then it does bring value to people. But I think in terms of resources, that would be people, processes, and systems, not necessarily IT systems, just systems of operation, your policies, your procedures, your books, how you do things. So if I'm looking at this and it says project management is the use of specific knowledge, skills, tools, and techniques to deliver something of value to people. The only heartburn I have with this is it sounds very operational. And there is a huge difference between operations in a company and project management in a company, or project management and operations. Operations is keeping the lights on. This is what you do day in and day out. You're not necessarily changing anything. The process is the same. It's repeatable. And too often it gets confused as a project. If you're doing the same rhythm over and over and over again, oftentimes it can be considered a project. For example, if you're building a house, you may want to consider that house a project and therefore have a construction project manager. But if you already have a design of templates and everything is lined up and you're really just making sure it happens, then you're really doing operations. You're really not changing anything, I guess, in terms of there was once trees and dirt and now there's a house. Yes, you're changing. But the same could be said about any normal operation. So really what makes project management different? The other definitions that are out there really tend to hit on skills, experience. They don't really always say what those skills and experience are, but processes, methods, skills, knowledge, and experience to achieve specific objectives. I don't know. When I read it, it sounds just a little too canned. And I really think it doesn't lend itself to the value of a project team. The value of a project team really is in communication and leadership and the people involved in that. A project manager is not the only person who leads and communicates in a project team. And when you do communicate and you do lead, you really have to do it from a different point of view. If you're on a project team and you're doing project management, you make some general assumptions that you may or may not be able to make for operations. For example, you make the assumption that if you need an expert, you have an expert. If somebody's filling that role, if that role is a junior level role, then you have a junior level person in there. generally speaking, your experts don't need to be trained in order to do the work that they need to do on a project. Otherwise, are they really experts? You're not really concerned too much, unless it's a very long-term project, about what's typically called the care and feeding of a team. You're not so worried about vacation time. You're just worried about knowing when it's going to happen. You're not so worried about their career development, their path forward, any of the human resources stuff. You have a team. This is going to be a project team. You're going to manage it, and everybody's there for that time period, and then they disperse. Maybe you regather later, but generally you come in, you do the work, you go away. So while there are, of course, relationships, it's definitely not the same relationship as somebody who comes into an organization and they have an operational manager who writes their performance appraisal, who makes sure that they're following all the HR guidelines, who make sure that they're onboarded as a new hire. All this kind of stuff is very, very different than when you're operating as a project team. There will be some similarities, but definitely not the same. So really, again, it comes down to what distinguishes a project from operations. And so if we just simply talk about the application of processes, procedures, skills, knowledge, it sounds just a little too much like a robot. And I think that's the biggest concern that I have with most definitions that I find on the internet, is there's a whole lot of focus on science and not a lot of focus on art. And really, you have to have the combination of the art and science of project management. I've heard this said by other people. I didn't create this, but when I heard it, I was like, that's absolutely correct. So really, in a project, everybody is leading and everybody is communicating in a very unique way to change something. And it's not just any change. A lot of times I hear in organizations, they have this thing called tracking only projects, or my favorite, it's an ongoing project, or this is an open-ended project. These things are not project management. These things are going down a checklist to make sure somebody's doing their job. That's tracking only. If it's ongoing, it's operational. If it's something that you're going to continuously do and it's going to be open-ended, it's really not a project. It might be a special operational effort for sure, but it's not necessarily a project. A project also needs to be planned. It needs to fit into the strategy of a business. There needs to be some reason, and this is the only real thing that I get in with the PMI, where they talk about it's to deliver something of value to people. It's not just delivering something. It could be deleting something. It's not always adding. It could be the addition, the deletion, or the modification of something that already exists. So we're talking about changing the environment, hopefully changing for the good, right? So there is value, and that is very, very important to remember, that there needs to be value that's added there. I really like that they include that word, but you are changing something. Now, this is not to say that project management equals change management. Usually change management is an operational process in and of itself. You have servers that are going to be upgraded. You have a standardized operational process for just making sure that people know what's changing. What I'm talking about is something significant. And if companies were to re-look at how they have set up project management teams, then they could really focus on having that project leadership team, that project manager, the business analyst, the project coordinator, these type of roles, to focus on something that is connected to the strategy of a business, and it is the hub of all of the communication and leadership related to the project. So really, it comes down to project management being an expert act of leadership and an expert act of communication tied to changing something that fits into an organization's strategy. And that's why I feel a little more married to the definition that I'm providing here, is that if you are on, and so many of us are, so don't take this as an insult, but if you are managing 20 something projects, then you are not managing a project. And it's a disservice, because your skills can only track the progress of an effort. So where do you get the idea that you can manage 20 projects or 30? I had one project manager tell me they managed over 30 projects at any given time. Think about what that just says. If you're managing 30 of anything, you're not really becoming an expert of that thing. You're doing some of it, which is your expertise is a mile wide and an inch thick, that sort of thing. And that does need to be a skill of a project manager, but you really don't get that whole walking around, engaging with people, communicating, leading. It's more like, I'm going to tell you to do this and you either do it, or I'm going to mark on my sheet that you didn't do it. And if that's all you're doing as a project manager, you're missing out. You're missing out on the act of a whole life cycle of events that happens where people are coming and going on the project all throughout the project. And you really get to learn how all of the pieces fit together, because you're relying on all these experts to bring in their expertise. And you're trying to change something. You feel like, and the team has a sense that they are working towards something that the company planned to do that fits into their strategy, not just running patches, not just responding to audit findings, not just updating the policies and procedures. While all of these things are very important, they don't lend themselves to being in the definition of what project management is. And so if you're not doing that, then really, are you managing the project? Are you a real business analyst on the project? Are you a real subject matter expert on a project? Or are you just there, quote unquote, trying to get a bunch of tasks done, or they say herding the cats? And again, there's some element of truth to it. But when you're engaged in project management, I'm going to try to drill this home as much as possible. When you are engaged in project management, you have to be doing something different from operations. Maybe there's some crossover. Maybe there's some areas where operations and projects come in and they do some of the similar tasks. For example, if there's a performance issue on the team, you have to address it. If somebody is going on vacation, for sure, you need to account for it. If somebody needs training on something new that's being delivered, you do need to try to address that in one way or another, either get them training or replace them with somebody else. So there are some similarities, but where it separates out is that operations is doing the business of the organization, whatever that business is. You think about what the business is and they're doing it and it's defined and it's a cycle and they're just keeping the lights on. And very critical. Maybe I shouldn't say just keeping the lights on, because without keeping the lights on, what are we all doing? But if I'm going to come in and say, I want to change my organization, I have a strategy. Most organizations have a 3 to 10 year strategy, and they need something to be changed in order to meet that strategy. That is something significant. And that change in the organization needs project management, not just a project manager, but needs project management, needs somebody to lead all of those teams, to communicate to all of those teams, to know that there are tools for sure that can help you. There are methodologies for sure that can help you. We've heard waterfall, agile, hybrid, all of these, and agile, of course, being more of a framework, but there's all kinds of things that go into project management, and you do need some of those skills, but sometimes you don't. What if you don't have Microsoft Project? What if you don't have Jira? Does that mean that project management can't happen because you don't have the tools? Absolutely not. I have personally managed projects with a team simply using a SharePoint site, or if I really go far back enough, Lotus 123. It's using an Excel spreadsheet, putting sticky notes up, or putting markers on glass. That you don't necessarily need to say, I'm going to use this specific tool or it's not a project. and I'm not doing project management. If this was tools, you would just forget it. Forget the tool for half a minute. This isn't project management. It's all garbage. Project management is communication. It's leadership. It's what you have to do to motivate people. You need to learn their communication styles. That's why when we teach project management at Business PMO, if we're just teaching the very basics of project management, like in our master class, what we do is we spend time on the science of project management, and then we move over to the art, and it's equal time. You need to know when you're being a leader on a project, you are doing project management. And when you're doing that project management, you need to know how to recognize your communication style, the other person's communication style, how to adjust and adapt your communication style so that you can get the message across to people. It's not just about the tools, and it's not just about the processes. If you get stuck in a company or an organization that says you must use this tool, follow this process, then what they are doing is they are taking the act of project management and operationalizing it. And maybe for some, maybe that's good. I don't know, but it's not project management. It's an image, a reflection of project management, sometimes the exact opposite of project management. If you turn project management into an operational process, then you don't have the art of communication and leadership. You lose adaptability, no matter how much you try to program it into it. You lose some of that element. You can only then rise to the level of maximum expertise of a tool and maximum expertise of a particular process. You get stuck very easily, and you're unable to improve and take a step up and say, oh, I'm going to try it differently for this project because this project requires project management. It requires somebody to lead, somebody to challenge the way that you do it, to find a better way for this project and this organization to meet that strategy. So don't get wrapped up at all in the tools. Don't get too wrapped up even in the definitions. Just know that if you are on a project team and you are managing a project, then you are leading and you are communicating and you are doing something that is going to change that organization to meet its strategy. If you can keep that general umbrella understanding in mind, then you're managing a project and you're doing project management. So one quick note, let me take a little drink of water here. When we talk next week, we're going to talk about what is a project manager, another $1 million question that everybody seems to ask, and even project managers don't seem to know. What is the 30-second elevator explanation of what a project manager is and what they do? And it's going to bleed off of this. It's going to tell you about how a project manager is the expert of experts of project management. But when you do project management, it's not just the project manager who's doing project management. It's every leader on the team leading the people assigned to them and communicating not just with the team, but outside of their team as well. So that leadership and that communication is project management, even if you're not a project manager doing it. One of the things that is helpful when you take a certification and you're qualifying yourself for a particular exam is to realize that you do not have to be a project manager to get project management experience, direct project management experience. So while the project manager may be the leader, the lead leader, the lead communicator, the one who is responsible for the success or failure of a particular project, and yes, they do project management, everybody on the team can be involved in some form or fashion of managing a project if you lead and if you communicate and you're rallying the team around what that change is and you understand how it fits into the strategy of an organization, then congratulations, regardless of your role, you're doing project management. So with that in mind, we're going to wrap this up. We're about 30 minutes in. So I would encourage you to go out to our website and see what classes we have. You can come out to, or come online or in person, you can come out to any of our exam prep classes, our project management masterclass, disc training, any of this sort of stuff. You can get to learn what project management is and what the different roles are in project management. So next week, we'll focus more on the actual roles. But takeaway for this one is that project management is leadership and communication to fit into some change into the strategy of an organization. So hope you enjoyed this session. I hope you all have a very good night. And please keep the comments coming. Always love getting emails and comments. So I would like to know what you think. And any questions or whatever we get, we'll be sure to answer them in future sessions. So everybody have a very good night. And I am going to end this beautiful recording. So thank you all again very much and have a good day.